Wait, is that really his bride? Someone whispered from the back of the luxurious wedding hall. All eyes were fixed on the aisle. The groom, a well-known millionaire named Daniel Carter, stood confidently in his tailored black suit. Cameras flashed, guests murmured, and journalists scribbled notes. But when the bride finally appeared, the room fell into a stunned silence. Walking slowly toward Daniel was a woman most people in that room would have never expected to see at a millionaire's wedding. Her name was Emily Harper. She was overweight, dressed in a simple white gown that didn't look nearly as expensive as the decorations around her. She wasn't a model, she wasn't glamorous, and she certainly didn't look like the type of woman people imagined Daniel Carter would marry. Some guests exchanged smirks, others shook their heads in disbelief. What none of them knew was the real reason behind the marriage. A week earlier, Daniel had been sitting with his wealthy friends in a private club in Toronto. The men were laughing loudly, drinking expensive whiskey, bragging about their businesses and their lives. One of Daniel's friends joked, "You've dated models, actresses, influencers, but you'd never marry someone ordinary." Daniel smirked arrogantly, "I could marry anyone I want." Another friend leaned forward with a challenge in his eyes. "Then prove it. Marry someone nobody expects. Someone completely opposite of your usual type." The table erupted with laughter. "What? Like who?" Daniel asked. His friend pointed through the club's window toward a small bakery across the street. Inside, a woman with flour on her apron was carefully arranging bread in the display. That woman, her name, they later learned, was Emily Harper. She lived alone in a small apartment above the bakery where she worked. Her life was simple. She woke up early, baked bread, served customers, and returned home quietly each evening. To Daniel and his friends, she looked like the perfect joke. The bet was simple: marry her and stay married for 6 months. If Daniel succeeded, his friends would pay him $500,000. At first, Daniel laughed. But the challenge appealed to his ego. 2 days later, he walked into the bakery. Emily looked up nervously when the well-dressed stranger approached the counter. "Can I help you?" she asked politely. Daniel studied her carefully. She looked shy, but her eyes were warm and kind. "I'd like to ask you something unusual," he said. Emily blinked in confusion. Daniel explained that he was looking for someone kind and genuine to marry him. He didn't mention the bet. Instead, he told her he admired people who lived simple, honest lives. Emily laughed awkwardly, certain he was joking. "Why would someone like you marry someone like me?" Daniel simply said, "Because I think you're different." For someone who had spent most of her life being overlooked, judged, and ignored, those words meant more than Daniel realized. After days of hesitation, Emily agreed. And now, here they were. The wedding ceremony ended quickly, but the whispers in the crowd never stopped. Daniel noticed the stares but didn't care. To him, it was just a temporary game. But for Emily, it meant everything. After the wedding, they moved into Daniel's enormous mansion. Emily felt completely out of place. The marble floors, the huge chandeliers, the endless rooms, it all felt like another world. The house staff looked confused by her presence. Daniel's friends quietly mocked the situation behind his back. But Emily tried her best. She cooked meals even though the house had professional chefs. She cleaned small things around the house even though there were maids. She smiled kindly at everyone, even when she could feel their judgment. Daniel barely noticed her efforts at first. To him, Emily was just part of the bet. But slowly, something began to change. One evening, Daniel came home late from work, exhausted and frustrated after a business deal had collapsed. He expected the house to be quiet. Instead, he found Emily sitting at the kitchen table, baking cookies. The warm smell filled the room. "You look stressed," she said gently. Daniel shrugged. "Just business." Without asking anything else, Emily placed a plate of cookies in front of him and poured him a cup of tea. No cameras, no expectations, no attempts to impress him. Just kindness. Daniel found himself relaxing for the first time that day. Over the following weeks, similar moments kept happening. Emily remembered the names of the staff and treated them like friends. She volunteered at a nearby shelter. She laughed loudly when watching old movies. She sang quietly while cooking. She never once asked Daniel for expensive gifts or money. One day, Daniel overheard two housemaids talking. "I've never seen someone this rich marry someone so kind," one said. "She's the only person in this house who treats us like humans," the other replied. Daniel stood silently in the hallway, listening. For the first time, guilt crept into his chest. 3 months passed. Daniel began spending more time at home. Conversations with Emily felt easy and genuine. Her presence brought a calmness he had never experienced before. But the secret of the bet still hung over everything. Then one afternoon, everything collapsed. Emily accidentally walked into Daniel's office while he was on the phone with one of his friends. "Relax," Daniel said into the phone. "3 more months and the bet is done. Easiest $500,000 I've ever made." Emily froze at the doorway. The room went silent. Daniel slowly turned around. The look in Emily's eyes broke something inside him. "So, this was all a game?" she whispered. Tears rolled down her cheeks as the truth sank in. "I trusted you." Daniel tried to explain, but every word sounded empty. Emily packed her small suitcase that same night. "I know I'm not beautiful," she said quietly, "but I thought maybe, just maybe, I was finally enough for someone." Then she walked out of the mansion. Daniel stood there, feeling a strange emptiness he had never known before. Days passed. The mansion felt colder than ever. The staff barely spoke. The kitchen smelled empty without her baking. For the first time in his life, Daniel realized something terrifying. He missed her. Not the bet, not the challenge, her. 2 weeks later, Daniel drove to the small bakery across the street from the club where everything had started. Emily was inside, quietly kneading dough. When she saw him, she froze. Daniel stepped forward slowly. "I came to tell you something," he said. Emily looked away. "You already said enough." Daniel shook his head. "I lost the bet." Emily frowned. "I told my friends I'm staying married to you, if you'll let me." Emily stared at him in disbelief. "The money doesn't matter," Daniel continued softly. "But you do. You showed me something I never understood before, that kindness is more valuable than anything I own." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, Emily said quietly, "Trust isn't easy to rebuild." Daniel nodded. "I know, but I'm willing to spend the rest of my life trying." Outside the bakery window, snow had started to fall softly across the Canadian street. And for the first time since that strange bet began, Daniel Carter was no longer acting like a millionaire trying to win a game. He was simply a man hoping for a second chance.